Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining. I'll be starting in like 10 seconds. If you can hear me, can someone just give me a thumbs up or just comment that the sound is okay? That would be amazing. Okay, so we shall begin. Okay, we're live. Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining this session. I hope you're all doing well. I am going to be talking to you today about medical device development engineering toolkit. In a minute, I'm going to maximize it just so you can see the slides better. And I would appreciate any feedback, and let's just dive in. So today's session is going to be Medical Device Development Engineers Toolkit. And my name is Sharsa Chariat Panahi, and I am a biomedical engineer. Now let's move on a little bit background information about myself. So I am a biomedical engineer and have been for the past 10 years, out of which about 5 years I worked as a product development engineer. Now, as a product development engineer, I came to learn a few things, doing the job that I was going to share with you today. Things about like medical devices in general and then regulations associated with them. Now, my background, I did do product development engineering at Convotech. That was focused on Class 1 and Class 2 medical devices. And I'll tell you what that is in a minute. And then at J&J Depew Synthes, I worked on Class 3 medical devices, and I also worked at the surgical robotics lab as well. So just to let you know, if you find value in today's session, again, I appreciate your feedback, but please bear in mind that I'll be repeating the exact same session on the 8th of May this year as well. So I have designed a few live sessions this year that will be through LinkedIn and Instagram live. So yes, if you find value today, please recommend this session. The exact same topics will be covered on the 8th of May as well. It will be always at 5 p.m. UK time for 30 minutes only. So it's a very brief session that I hope gives you value and information that you need. Having said that, I also have other sessions on the topic of joint replacement. So in exactly 4 weeks from now, I'll be talking about an introduction to hip, knee, and ankle replacement. If you know someone who is interested in joint replacement topics, please feel free to let them know that I'll have this session on the 6th of March next month. If you have a family member or a friend who is unfortunately suffering from hip, knee, or ankle pain, and they're maybe evaluating their options for surgery and things like that, I think they can also find value in my session next month. And exactly similar to that, I'll be covering the topics of shoulder and elbow replacement in April, on the 3rd of April. So keep that in mind. I will also announce that on my LinkedIn and Instagram, but closer to the time. Moving on. And I think, Medical Device Development Engineers Toolkit. But before we jump in, just one quick question. Just, have a think about what is a medical device. Is there a definition, an official definition for it? There certainly is. And now I'm going to make my slide bigger, so when we move on to the next page, which has some information, you can see it easier. So just bear with me. I know there's a lot of information here, but we are not going to read through everything, just the first paragraph. So a medical device, and that definition is by MHRA in the UK, Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. A medical device is any apparatus, appliance, software, material, or other article, whether used alone or in combination, intended by the manufacturer to be used by human beings for a medical purpose. And then we have a few examples like walking sticks, contact lenses, and breast implants. Okay, then it continues to say that medical devices include in vitro diagnostics, medical devices or IVDs. Now, although that's very important to know, we are not going to be covering that today. So I just wanted to highlight that. And at the bottom of the page, you can see there's a similar definition by the Federal Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act, FDCA, which is a law that gives the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, the power to regulate food, drugs, medical devices, cosmetics, and tobacco products. Now, what's important here in this paragraph is if you pay attention to the last few lines, where it says a medical device does not achieve any of its primary intended purposes through chemical action. I just wanted to highlight this and make sure that you pay attention that we shouldn't mistake a medical device with a drug, okay? So if there is chemical action involved, it may be that you're looking at a drug rather than a medical device. So keep that in mind. But essentially, a medical device can be used at home, like a blood pressure monitor, or in a laboratory or clinical setting, right? I will give you some more examples. Now, yes, take a look at this one, for example. This is dividing medical devices into 7 distinct categories. Just take a moment to absorb this. Just see anything from a digital thermometer to a PCR test, for example. These are all medical devices in 7 different categories. So I think this is a very good representation of what we mean when we talk about medical devices and regulatory aspects of medical devices. Okay, so I will give you now a easy to follow, a brief description for a medical device. So basically, a medical device is a tool, machine, or other instrument used to diagnose, treat, or monitor a medical condition. Medical devices can also be used to restore, correct, or modify the body's structure or function. Okay, I think that's a brief description that is clear and easy to understand. Yes, so if you have any questions at any point, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I can't look at them right now, but I will get back to you as soon as I can after this session is over. Now, I wanted to highlight one thing. A software can be considered a medical device, all right? So if the software is designed and intended to be used for a medical purpose, such as diagnosis, treatment, monitoring, or prevention of disease, even if it operates independently without any physical hardware, basically this is referred to as software as a medical device, SAMD, you can see in the middle. Yes, and SAMDs have their own separate regulatory requirements, and we are not going to be covering that information today. That's separate. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Now, about classification of medical devices, this is also very important because everything that comes after this slide is dependent on this part here. So we have FDA classifications and we have CE mark classifications. If you just take a look for FDA, for example, which is used more commonly in the states, we have classification 1, 2, and 3. That is basically lowest to highest risk. So these are risk-based classification of medical devices. And CE mark, which is more like used in EU, European Union, includes classification 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. Now the difference is, in the US, they have lowest risk classification, and then number 2 would be medium risk, and number 3 is highest risk. However, in EU, it is lowest risk classification, number 1 at the top, and then we have medium risk classification, number 2, class A, so 2A, and 2B is medium to high risk, and number 3, we have highest risk. Okay, that's the difference. And here in the UK, we have a similar system to CE mark classification. Basically, the CE marking is a certification that a product has met the European Union's health, safety, and environmental requirements in accordance with EU MDR. So a few years ago now, in 2021, EU regulations changed from Medical Device Directive MDD to EU MDR, which is Medical Device Regulation. And that's what we have right here on this slide. As I said, the UK has a similar system, so it's called UKCA, which stands for UK Conformity Assessment. It's a mark that indicates a product complies with UK legislation and is required for selling products, particularly in Great Britain. Okay? Now, I will give you a few examples of the type of medical devices based on risk classification. So this is directly copied, this table was copied from MHRA website. And as you can see, yes, in the UK, we have similar system, class 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. Just take a moment to look at the medical devices on the table. Now, I just wanted to highlight one thing here. Pacemakers. Okay, so active implantable medical device, which is a pacemaker and the likes of that, are called AIMDs, require an external power source or rely on an internal power source and remain implantable. Okay? All AIMDs are covered under a separate directive in the EU regulatory system. Okay, so exactly like the software medical device, which we are not going to be covering today, I'm not going to be talking about active implantable medical devices today either, because that would just make things much more longer and complicated. We're just keeping it basic. We are going to be covering implantable medical devices, right? But not active ones, not the ones that need power source. What I'll be talking about today can be, for example, implantable orthopedic medical device, right? So bear that in mind. And let's move on to medical device development role, or R&D engineer role. Just some background information on the role itself. It will be just one slide, but I thought it was important to highlight the terminology that is used out there for the role of device development engineer. These are just a few examples, and these examples you can see on the screen are available across all industries. So this is not particularly relevant to medical device industry. All industries can have development engineers, product development engineers. Just take a moment to look at the titles of these roles. There are subtle differences when the name is different. For example, top left, we have product development engineer, whereas bottom left, we have product developer. You know, there are differences in the names of the roles, although they're all doing the same thing. The role is slightly different, so it's highly recommended that you take a look, in particular if you're targeting to apply for roles like these. Just make sure to read the job description because that's where the keywords are hidden. Just one thing to highlight here is new product developer or new product development engineer is what I'm highlighting here. So there's a rather significant difference between new product development engineer and just a simple product development engineer role, right? We'll go to the next slide and I'll clarify that further. Okay, so at the top, you can see NPI engineer. Now that is new product introduction engineer. We also have new product development engineer. Again, there are subtle differences, but these people work on developing products like from concept until the product is actually developed and manufactured. But if you look at the bottom one, development engineer role, and the keywords that I said would be in the job description. Maintenance of existing products in the market. Now that is the type of development engineer who works after the product is manufactured and launched in the market. You know, the product is already out there. Now this development engineer would be working on making sure the product stays the same quality, is performing well the way it was supposed to. And yet this development engineer at the bottom has nothing to do with creating a brand new device. They're just trying to develop and maintain the product in the market. I will tell you how and why we need development engineers post-market launch. Now, just a quick note that new product introduction engineer, NPI, we can see here, is similar yet different to new product development engineer. They're also called manufacturing engineer or design engineer. Again, there are differences, subtle differences, but work before product is launched. Whereas for the bottom one, development engineer on the screen, they are also called, some companies call them commercialized product development engineer. Actually, one of my roles was that, commercialized product development engineer, or sustainability product development engineer, or for example, legacy product development engineer. If you see any of this is all referring to post-market launch. Moving on to the medical device product life cycle. So the journey of any medical device spans from initial concept to end of life, encompassing several key stages, as you can see on the screen. So anything from concept and feasibility to production and market launch, all of those stages, they require a new product development engineer to work on them, develop documentation, make sure everything is in accordance with the regulatory requirements. So that is all done by new product development engineer. And to the right of the screen, you can see handed over to sustainability or commercialized product development engineering team. Now that is when the product has hit the market, it's launched, and now it's no longer with the new product development team. It is now a commercialized product development team's responsibility to take care of it. Now, there's a lot of information here on this slide, so just take a moment to take that all in, and I'll start explaining from the top down, okay? I'll just give you like 10 seconds to take a look. Okay, very good. So starting at the top, to the left, we have new product development engineer. And to the right, we have CPD, SPD, that is commercialized product development or sustainability product development engineer. So look at the phase row, right? For phase, we have everything from planning until designing, testing, verifying, and actually until market launch. Everything in that phase is taken care of by new product development engineer. And anything that's after production, and if you can read in that arrow right there, it says design transfer. So that's when the new product development team transfers all the documents they have, all the documents that they created for this particular brand new product, is basically handed over to the commercialized product development team, right? So if, say, the first phase, the phase of planning to verifying to market launch, takes a limited time, like say anything from a few months to a few years, as soon as that product hits the market, depending on its performance, that product can stay in the market for a long, long time. So I just wanted to highlight that post-market phase for a long time, or until the product is obsolete, basically. So for that reason, we need commercialized product development team to take care of the product after launch. And in terms of documentation, if you take a look at the documentation, design history file, for example, DHF, those are the documentation that new product development engineers would develop, right? Those are all the design files or risk management assessments and everything along those lines. I will give you a detailed list next. But those are all the documents that new product development team would produce, basically. And if there is at any point any changes required to the design or to the product, basically, if they test the product and it's not performing as they intended and they need to make modifications and changes, then there's design control procedures, part of the regulatory requirements to work to, right? So the NPD engineer would be work in accordance with design control procedure. Whereas after market launch, the CPD, or commercialized or sustainability product development engineer, would be using design history files. However, they would also handle and create device master record and device history record files, DMR and DHR. And those are basically required if there is a need to change something with the product. Imagine you have made this amazing product that has launched and hits the market, but it's not performing as you had hoped based on the information or feedback you get from your customers. It can be surgeons and doctors, it can be patients. Then at that point, if there is any change required to the product, because it's now launched, it will be done in accordance to change control guidelines. Now, there are some gray areas about what I just said. I will clarify that in a moment, I think. Maybe next slide. And at the bottom, we have the product and some icons showing that it has hit the market, and the product life cycle that we've seen before. And after it hits the market, the CPD engineers will take care of complaint handling, recall management, adverse event reporting, and continuous improvement and post-market activities. This is to ensure long-term safety and effectiveness for the product, okay? And yes, bear in mind that post-market changes may require regulatory evaluations if they impact safety and performance. Okay. Moving on. Right, so here we have a list of documents or document sets, series of documents that would be created by new product development team as part of design history file development, right? So all of these would be inside design history file. But let's look at the diagram on the left first for a moment. This is called the application of design controls to waterfall design process. And the FDA introduced this diagram in 1997 in the Design Control Guidance document. And ever since then, they have used this diagram in just about every one of FDA's presentations. This is to describe the overall process of design and development, from user needs to inputs, to process, to outputs, and to basically an actual completion of a medical device, with how it's tied into verification and validation. Okay, I was going to give you detailed explanation of all these document sets, like inputs, outputs, risk management, verification records, validation records, and project management. I was going to dive deep into what those documents are exactly and what is their significance, why do we need them, in accordance with the regulatory requirements, why are we obligated to develop these documents. But I just noticed that time it's almost like, it's 5:27. So I will skip getting into the details of this, but if anybody has any questions about the type of documents that are developed as part of design history file, please feel free to reach out, leave a comment, or send me a direct message. So we'll be moving on to, yes, so these are just a few examples, just a small list of forms and files in a DHF, design history file, that is developed by the new product development engineering team in a company, right? So things like testing plan, to design requirement trace matrix, to design input, and design and risk management plan. These are all examples. Okay, here, just a quick summary. This is not, we've already looked at this, so just a quick summary. NPD team creates the DHF documents, as we saw in the last slide. And sustainability product development uses DHF and creates or handles DMR and DHR document sets. Now, just to give you some information about these two document sets, a DMR, or device master record, details the specific material, equipment, and environment requirements for production, whereas a DHR, or device history record, has all the documentation of the production process. For example, the date that it was produced, or the quantity that it was manufactured, or the labels that were used. All the finer details are under DHR. As such, any changes attempting to improve the product before it hits the market is done by NPD and according to design control procedures, and after market launch is by CPD, or commercialized product development team, and in accordance with change control guidelines. Again, this is everything we've covered so far. It's basically a detailed summary of everything we said about pre-launch and post-launch. I have written the details of the standards required. So yes, if you have any questions about the standards, the details of the names of them, I can give you that. But for now, let's skip this. It's time. Yes. So here we have DHF compared to DMR. A DHF is a design history file, and that's the full description of the design, including any key documentation and many project management reports. Okay. And DMR is really focusing on documentations around the process and of manufacturing. I hope this is clearer now, because I tried to explain in different ways, and I hope that makes sense to you. And this is just a quick summary of what a sustainability or legacy or commercialized product development engineer would do. The change drivers are customer feedback, post-market surveillance, regulatory updates, manufacturing optimizations, and the rest, compliance standard and documentation updates. We discussed that a lot today. So yes, I just wanted to say thank you very much for attending this session. If you did find value, please recommend this session to your friends and colleagues. As you know, I will be, well, this was, yes, our LinkedIn Live. Today's session is crossed out now. I will be covering the exact same topics on the 8th of May. At 5 p.m. UK time for 30 minutes, I'll be talking about the Medical Device Development Engineers Toolkit. If you have any feedback for me, please send them to me via direct message on LinkedIn or Instagram. And yes, on the 6th of March, 4 weeks from now, I'll be talking about hip, knee, and ankle replacement. Please feel free to join that session and introduce that session to your friends and colleagues or family members who are interested in the topic. Any questions? Drop them in the comments, send me a DM, schedule a phone call. I'd be happy to discuss all these topics further. And yeah, thank you very much. Have a nice rest of your day. Bye now.